Right, so mass hysteria again this week over the golf ball changes. As you know, we've said before, I think these changes are well overdue. It's really, I think the conversation always reverts to distance, but it's much more about skill. The fact is, modern golf ball doesn't spin as much. Modern driver has a much larger head. Golfers, and certainly in professional competitions these days, are playing newer golf courses where they don't really have the nuance, and the only defence is for the course to be very long. And Tiger comes along, and the golfing athlete is born, and now we've got players who have grown up hitting it as hard as they can, going to the gym. They're hitting it as hard as they can because the ball doesn't spin and they've got a massive headed driver. And it's the combination of those things that result in players hitting it much further. Actually, in my opinion, the game being much less entertaining, and there being a little bit less skill. You know, when Tiger came along and he was hitting the ball over, 320 yards with an older ball and a small-headed driver, that was really quite impressive, and there weren't too many guys out there that could do it. These days, the majority of players on tour are able to do it. So we did a test a few months back where we showed the original Pro V1 versus the modern Pro V1, and we kind of just debunked a little bit about this message of constant progress, the big jump in that enable golfers to hit it further. I'm not going to call it performance, because performance is a much bigger thing than that. It encompasses more things than just hitting the ball a long way, as does progress. But Pro V1 spun a lot less, so players immediately hit it further, and then what happened is the reaction of the players is that then they can start hitting it harder because they don't have to control the ball. So I've managed to get a while back a load of balatas. This is this one here, that's an old Pro V1. So these are, you can see the box here just to show you, I've got them straight out of the packet. It was a brand new dozen. I mean, somebody could argue that these maybe deteriorate a little bit over their lifetime, but these have never been hit. These are Tour balatas with the triangle. Tour balata 100 compressions, so they're not the softer one. These were the last, really, the last model of the balatas. So I'm going to kick off with, I'm going to hit a couple of 6-irons and then go straight to the driver. I'll hit the original, the up-to-date Pro V1, so this is actually a Pro V1X. I just need to change the setting on here. And for the purposes of this test, I've got a proper modern driver, so I'm not going to use my Super Quad. I'm going to use the old TSR4, so that is the absolute latest model with a great shaft. This Diamana PD, in my opinion, is a return to form from Mitsubishi. And I also thought it'd be interesting because I know where we're going to go with this. They're not really going to be able to get a meaningful difference, regardless of the silly reactions that people have had. I think Michael Breed posted yesterday that the balata would fail the new test. I mean, that is absolute nonsense and goes to show where his interests lie. I think that's a pretty anti-golf thing to say. But yeah, I've got a Bridgestone J, original metalwood. Not my favourite type of club, really. I like the Persimmons, but this is, you can see the difference in head size if I put it next to the TSR4, and the TSR4 is a smaller head than the standard model Titleist, so you can see how huge that difference is. Right, so hit a couple of 6-irons. I don't need to hit too many. I think just get a couple of good ones away. I just have to loosen up a little bit. This launch monitor hates my New Balance. Picks up the little, picks up the reflective bit. Better. Okay, so you can see from the image there, I always like to be upfront about these things. Actual measurements, nothing assumed. Look at some of the camera launch monitors, the most used one in particular, Foresight. You never really know what that thing's doing. You never get an image out of it. The great thing about this is we get an absolute image. So I've had a bit of a couple of funny ones there. So we've got two really good solid ones, and they're the ones I'm going to use. So I'm going to go new set now. I'm going to move over to the balata. I've kind of painted these dots on. I didn't have the right marker pen. So it might be a bit unreliable on the reads, but we'll get a couple, I'm sure. So, totally different feeling. I mean, it really does feel like you're squashing it. There's a lot of people who look back at balatas quite fondly. I'm not one of them. I'm just about old enough to remember using these things. I used them as a junior. I can remember waiting until my dad was drunk at Sunday lunch at the golf club and just waiting for my moment to go and ask him for £5.95 to buy a brand new packet of Titleist balatas. And them being quite precious, but then whenever I took them out, you know, one thin shot, it's game over. It's quite a lot of pressure. I also used to stand on the 18th green at Wentworth at the Volvo Championship and wait for players to chuck their balls into us, scrabble with the other kids to get them. And I'd also end up using those balls, which was even more pressure. Yeah, I mean, that is just like, it's so squashy. It's not a feeling that I particularly enjoy, to be honest with you. So there's three decent ones there. And you can see 6,600 average with the Pro V1, 7,300. So, you know, 10 to 15% more spin on the irons, and also the other thing to note is that if you use a softer ball, and obviously then you're getting a bit more compression on it, the tendency will be to launch it a little bit lower. It's just spending a bit more time on the face, and usually it will launch a bit lower. That's not for everyone, but generally speaking, that is. So not a massive drop in actual ball speed with a 6-iron. Looking at about 2 miles per hour, so it's not that significant, and I think that speaks to how ridiculous the hysterical response is, because I think the one thing that people really can't say, certainly generally speaking, everyone in the industry that's got a big following is kind of bought and paid for. You know, they're reliant on the industry. They've sort of climbed the greasy pole of the industry. So somebody like Michael Breed, who put that out yesterday, you know, somebody at Titleist has said that to him. They can guarantee you that test was never done, because if it was, that wouldn't be the result. And, you know, it gets trotted out. So it's a sort of gang thing, really. It's like everyone's kind of showing how committed they are to the status quo, even if the status quo is completely broken. It doesn't matter. It's like everyone's got to put food on the table, which I get, but I think that it's incumbent upon the RNA and the USGA to take a long-term view with their decision-making, and to do the right things for the game. And I think as golfers, we'd rather they were regulating the game than commercial entities that are taking a 3-year profit view and really don't care about anything else. And as golfers, we should be up in arms about the way that they're being undermined by the business of golf. Okay, don't really need to hit any more. I've absolutely pounded those two. Beautiful. I don't launch it as high as everybody wants people to at the moment. I like to launch it a bit lower, tee it a bit lower, old school. Right, let's hope I can get a good read on this ball. This will be interesting. So, oh, triggered that. So spin rates there around 2, ball speed around 165, launch angle around 9. Okay, it's just so like, such a different feel. So squashy. And that was a pretty good one. So, look, I think we all knew what we were going to see. 162 ball speed, 3,500 RPMs of spin, and 7-degree launch. So, launch is lower, comes off the club, what, 3 miles an hour slower? And that's all compression, by the way. So that is a softer ball, just for a, you know, for a high-ish swing speed will come off slower, and that's why that's the case. So I'll hit one more. I don't really need to hit one more because that was a good one, and for some reason I'm hitting it all right. Uh, 163, but 4,700 on the spin, right? So that's an absolute distance killer. So if I'm a pro golfer back in the 80s, and I'm, you know, again, I'm using the modern ball, right? So I'm hitting it pretty hard all the time. I've got to try and control that spin. So let me try and get this under control. Because otherwise, if there's a breath of wind, I'm going to be, right, so I've taken all the speed out of that. But I've got a bit steep on it, and it's all the way up at 4,800 RPMs of spin. So, you know, it's real skill that those guys had. You know, you couldn't hit the ball further just from speed. You had to control the ball flight. So there's an extra bit of quality to it. Isn't that better? More skillful? That players would have to do that. So I'll try and hit like a sort of soft draw. All right, that should be pretty good. Yeah, so I've got, like, look at that. I mean, I've hit a soft draw, I've got a bit of spin out of it, and it's come off pretty fast, even though I've hit it soft. So, you know, the balata balls really did reward quality of strike. But it's spin which has made the difference. It's the fact that the ball does not spin that's made the difference to pros. So they can just hit it as hard as they can. And I guarantee you, none of them would be very good at trying to take that spin off. Might be better than me, but I don't know. Doubt it. Right, so now I'm going to hit an old school driver, Bridgestone J, one of the great old school drivers, tiny head. Still got a graphite shaft though, so this is a fair test. So what we're testing here really is like, you know, how much difference does the big titanium head make on a middled shot? But also, you know, if I miss-hit this, how much am I losing? And therefore, you know, if I was playing for money, would I have to slow down to make sure I hit the middle of the face? More precision, more skill, better. That's progress. I've absolutely squashed that first time. Okay, so look at that, 158. So out the middle, you know, let's say I could get the balata up to 160, and with the Pro V1 I was 165. Out the middle it's 158. But the big difference is that if I don't middle it, it's going to lose a lot. You know, so if I don't middle it, it's going to be a lot further back. Right, that's not middled. That's a little bit high on the toe, which obviously loses you a lot with this. You see how much that club's twisted. Probably with a titanium driver, that might have been all right. So I'm just going to hit one now with a Pro V1. That's ripped, and that's a little bit out the top of the face. So that's the classic one, right? So lost a tiny bit of speed, but out the top of the face, so it's launched at 10 degrees, spinning at 3. So moral of the story is, spin is the big thing. Driver head size is the big thing, just to try and sort of zero in on it. And all of these people that are towing the company line and are just trotting out what the equipment companies say and coming out with all these false statements about how amateurs shouldn't be governing the game. I mean, I can guarantee you, those guys at the RNA and the USGA not only got very high golf IQs, but also got very high IQs. And they're operating because they love the game. And the reason that they're doing this is because they could not stand aside any longer and have the gun held to their head from the big manufacturers of them taking them to court. And anyone saying that this is like anti-progress and that people hitting it miles is progress, and that's a really one-dimensional view. If we think about the game that we want to see played on our televisions, I want to see them working to control the ball. I want to see them being creative, and also I want to see them playing brilliant golf courses. I don't watch pro golf anymore because they play crap golf courses. I want to see them playing at Sunningdale. I want to see them playing links courses more, and I want to see them playing courses where there's multiple options to work shots in and get that skill back into the game. It's all well and good, you know, fitness is a big thing these days and people like to keep fit, fair enough, but let's just get a bit of skill back and let's support the governing bodies, because at the end of the day, the actions of the big manufacturers, the world of golf, the business of golf, is completely disingenuous. And anyone in the golfing community, in terms of day-to-day golfers, that trot out this message that they're trotting out about anti-progress, holding things back, being bad for the average player, is just a useful idiot, really, for that message. And the other point to make here is, which we've proved before, you know, I don't know if you look back at our old videos, that Pro V1 was brilliant for the pros. Higher compression balls, lower spinning balls were brilliant for the pros, but it wasn't good for the average player. So play what the pros play has been a really bad message for the average player. For most golfers, if you use a lower compression ball that spins a little bit more, you're actually going to hit it further. Dustin Johnson would hit it short with that ball, but for most golfers, and when I say most golfers, I'm saying anyone that hits it under 260 yards, right? You'd be better off with that lower compression ball. So it's all, and the problem is, the reason that the governing bodies can't say that is because the manufacturers will take them to court. But we've done our testing, our technology's the best. You know, when I hit one out the middle, it's reasonably consistent, it's reasonably similar. Swing robots have their limitations, they don't hit it like a human, and you know, we're happy to stand by our testing. So they're not going to get what they want to get without adjusting the driver head size for pros. I'm not saying go as small as this, but let's at least get some jeopardy into it and having to hit the middle of the face. And let's have a higher spinning ball at a lower compression, because what will happen then, if players have to use, say if you had a 400cc limit, so the drivers on tour are 460, everyone's using 460, it's a frying pan on a stick, and they don't spin either, so you can hit it even harder. If everybody's got a 400cc head, a lower compression, higher spinning ball, because the ball's spinning more, people will start to play lower lofts again. So back in the early days of metal woods, because of that, what we've just seen there on the spin, players were using like 7-degree tall burner drivers. I mean, you've never seen a driver harder to hit than that. Jesus Christ, you have to be good to hit that. They were hitting this cool low riser flight. But the point is, if you get into that lower loft with a higher spinning ball, you can hit it as hard as you want. And if you catch one, it's going to go just as far as it does today. Maybe not, maybe like 5-10 yards less for the top people. But at least you know there's a bit more jeopardy in that. And not everybody will be able to do it. And what will happen is, we'll start to find players who we don't see anymore. So when we don't see people like David Toms anymore, we don't see people like Corey Pavin anymore. Great skilled golfers who are great at the craft of getting it round a golf course. We want those guys back. These athlete college type players that are coming out now, boring, right? They're boring. I want to see players out on the course, you know, using skill. I mean, to be honest with you, I'd like to see players smoking again, but that's another story. But yeah, anyway, all of this hysteria and all of the tidal wave of crap that's coming out of this situation, rail against it. We have to support the governing bodies because they're the ones that have got the best interest of the game at heart. The others have not.